Hey everybody, Ethan Hammond, Strength and Rehab Specialist here. We want to go over, very first off, we need to have a better understanding of what causes injuries, because if we can categorize our injuries in a very specific way, then we can understand how we can best help ourselves. The worst scenario that I've seen basically my whole life is that basically, this is going to sound like I'm dissing medical doctors. I am not. Medical doctors have their purposes. The general population are basically abusing their medical doctors and when they don't have to, but they believe they have to. What this means, guys, is that we basically hold medical doctors on this pedestal as like the supreme leaders when it comes to health and lifestyle and nutrition and, bodily care. That is not what their training is. Doctors are trained for allopathic medicine, meaning that you have something like a disease and they will use something such as drugs, chemotherapy and radiation, and such like external factors like that impact your body in such a similar way, or surgery. And they use that to treat dysfunction, to treat disease. Okay? So, for example, if I have the flu and I want to get medical help, I will go to the doctor for that. If I fall down a flight of steps and I break my forearm and like my ulnus, sticking out through the skin, I'm going to go see my doctor. However, if I strain a hamstring, you should never go see a doctor. So you're out for a run, you decide to take up sprinting, you go for a sprint, the very first one, and bam, you strain a hamstring. Do not go see your medical doctor. You probably shouldn't even see a physical therapist for that. So if you go see a medical doctor, you got, I'll go to this side, you got a hammy strain, an extremely common injury. So you've overworked the hamstring, you were working it through more range of motion with a lot of power, using more range of motion than you actually have, that you actually have access to. So you strain a hamstring, you go to your medical doctor, what do? They have you lay down, they kind of move your leg around, they ask you what happened, and they're like, yeah, you probably strained your hamstring. Here's either one of two things, or maybe both things will happen. They give you a referral to a physio, or they tell you to rest for like 6 to 8 weeks. They tell you to take pain pills and ice it whenever it hurts, and they tell you not to do the running. They tell you to stop doing the thing that you love doing, that you did doing that, if you love running. Not everyone does. Here's the problem with that. If you rest it, yes, rest is important. However, if you have this idea of you have to be sedentary for, up to 2 months for a simple hamstring strain, you're going to be sedentary, and that has its own set of consequences that we really don't want to be dealing with. If you ice it, you numb the pain. If you numb the pain, your body doesn't know that there's an injury, doesn't know that there's something that it needs to be healing. And so healing massively slows down. A lot of people still go with the RICE protocol, which is rest, ice, compress, and elevate. Now, compression is great. Elevation can be great. Elevate. It's the excessive resting, the inappropriate resting has to be appropriate, and it's icing altogether. So the guy, I don't remember his name, but a quick Google search will tell you, the guy who came up with this even said, stop icing, because it counteracts healing. It slows down healing massively, and it helps your body to actually maintain inflammation in the area over a long period of time, much longer than, if it happens here, you can technically heal the hamstring strain, but you still have chronic inflammation, chronic pain, chronic stiffness, chronic weakness in that area because it didn't heal properly, because you were too busy resting and being sedentary, and you were too busy icing it, making sure that you didn't feel any pain, and letting your body know, hey, there's no injury here because there's no pain, and so it didn't actually heal fully. Do you understand where I'm coming from here? Okay, so the guy who created the whole RICE thing took it back, I think like back in 2012, and was like, no, do not do this. Rest, this is probably still like the biggest, most popular thing that people do to heal from injuries. We need to stop doing it. Okay, so what do we need to do instead? Well, we'll get to the specifics of what we need to do. Sorry about the noise, this is a little bit wobbly. Let's not erase the best. So what we need to do, first off, this is the most important thing, is we need to understand why do our injuries happen, and what are the categories of dysfunction? So we're just going to list that off. Categories of dysfunction. This is a pretty simple discussion. And once you see the words, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So if you have chronic pain, thought experiment, guys, just think off the top of your head, you have chronic pain, go. What is the specific problem you're dealing with? And typically, like if I'm leading a workshop or a seminar about chronic pain and mobility, then I'll have people go through, like, give me 20 examples, and people will give me 20 fast examples. So you've got chronic pain, what is it? And then we go through and categorize things. So you have things like, you have the flu, you have an ACL tear, you have chronic headaches, you have lower back pain, you dislocated your shoulder, things like that, right? We go through and we list off 20 things. Then we categorize it. What are these categories? And this is one of the most empowering things that the general population needs to know, because this kind of tells you, where do I need to go for help? Because if I strain a hamstring, if I don't need to go to my medical doctor and get the care, because the care is worthless, the care that I listed off before, that's worthless. What do I need to do instead? So number one, the number one category, not like the top most popular thing, but number one on the list is pathology. This basically just means you're sick. So if you have chronic lower back pain, let's think about this. Are you experiencing night sweats, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, sudden changes in your weight or sudden changes in your bladder or bowel function? Anything like that? Like, do you have shivering? Do you have any of the classic symptoms of being ill? Typically, we can just do like a really quick close your eyes, self-analysis. Am I sick? Yes, I feel sick. Go to your doctor. Easy, okay? Okay, so you have lower back pain. Let's say you don't have any symptoms of being ill. What else could it be? It could also be you have lower back pain because of a catastrophical incident. Catastrophical incident. The incident's not necessarily important there. Okay, so catastrophe. This means that something big outside of you impacted your body in such a way that, yeah, things hurt. So for example, you fell down the stairs and the stairs hit you. You didn't hit them. So both of these things are something external is invading your body or impacting your body in some way, right? You're walking down the street and a rugby player just comes out of nowhere and side tackles you and shatters your knee. Or, you got into a car wreck and that's why you have your lower back. So there's been some kind of big catastrophic event. Is that why your lower back's hurting? Okay, and then you're thinking, yes, I was just in a car wreck, 5 hours ago. Maybe I jarred my lower back. That makes sense. What do I need to do for that? If something's actually shattered, you're bleeding profusely, something's broken, go see your doctor. And that's typically what we're talking about. I'm not talking like you got into a car wreck and your lower back just has a little bit of an ache. I mean, you are feeling like you're going to die from the pain. You cannot move at all. You cannot feel your legs. We would call that catastrophe. Okay, so that makes sense. Right, so let's say you go through this thought experiment and you're thinking, okay, I'm not sick. There hasn't been some kind of catastrophic impact to my body. What else could it be? Well, do you have a desk job where you are sitting at a desk 9 to 5, only to go home to have a TV dinner where you're then sitting down on your sofa from like 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock before going to bed on the worst mattress in the world? Maybe you have lower back pain because your posture is awful. And in conjunction with that, your hips, your lower back, your hip flexors, your abdomen, your core is so incredibly weak and stiff that your mobility is also heavily impacted, and it's just pulling on your spine all the time, putting so much tension and pressure on your central nervous system. Could that be causing your lower back pain? 9.8 times out of 10, yes, it is. So what we understand about pathology and catastrophic problems is that in the grand scheme of things, when we're looking so if we're working in the gym and we have like these tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of working hours, working with athletes with understanding and analyzing dysfunction, this stuff accommodates, let me still see, 2% of problems. Whereas having bad posture, and we can also say technique, if I can spell it right, technique or position or mechanics. This is all kind of the same thing, which is like how do you use your body, right? Posture, technique, position, mechanics. It's all fundamentally the same thing. So posture and mobility. Mobility means excess tension. There's excess tension or weakness, because you kind of get both of those things together. When muscles are really tight, they're really weak. When muscles are really weak, they tend to be really tight. And what we understand is that these two things, posture and mobility, this accommodates 98% of all of the dysfunction that we see in our athletes. So working in the gym, working with thousands upon thousands of athletes, spending tens, if not at this point, hundreds of thousands of hours watching athletes move, watching athletes get stronger, get better, and also get weaker from injuries and chronic posture mobility issues. That's about how the maths works. So the vast majority of your issues is going to come from posture, how you kind of arrange yourself and use your body, and from having an excessive amount of tension and weakness inside your body, and it pulls on things chronically over time. So thought experiment, ask yourself, what is your lower back pain from? If we can understand this is the number one thing to do, then we understand what we need to do, which is that if you have a posture mobility issue, see your local strength and rehab coach. That's me. All right, guys, that is the 4 categories of dysfunction. That pretty much covers every single type of dysfunction that you're going to see and experience that deals with athletic injuries, chronic pain, chronic stiffness, chronic weakness, whatever. So you decide what you're dealing with, and you decide who do you need to see. Do you need to go see your doctor? That might be appropriate. Or do you need to give me a call on WhatsApp to get you sorted? Either way, start performing, start getting this idea, this mindset of I need to get help so I can learn to maintain my body, because I do not have to live with chronic pain. Pathology and catastrophe. Last little note on this stuff. Shit happens, doesn't it? You get sick, people get hit, people fall down, people have accidents. It happens. Not really in your control. How much is your posture in control? 100%. How much is taking care of your tight quads in your control? 100% in your control. If you suffer with chronic pain, chronic injuries, athletic injuries, I have got you covered. My name is Ethan Hammond, and I am a strength and rehab specialist. I work with people who want to return to sport and fitness, but feel that they can't because of pain and injuries. I've helped people with conditions such as lower back pain, ACL tears, shin splints, neck pain and chronic headaches, and so many more things. Now, a lot of you will be going through things like this, like what I just listed above, and you're saying that you cannot train anymore. Bullshit. You have got to train, and you've got to train right. Train or complain, that is the way this works. Now, I work in person in Southampton, England, but I have online services as well if you're a bit further out. And I also offer free consultations to get you started with a free game plan and strategy for getting out of pain. All you have to do is to send me a text or a WhatsApp message to 07 305 231 339, and I will personally get back to you in the next 24 hours to get you started on the road to proper recovery. If you are serious about leveling up and making real change, this is how you start.